From a new teaser trailer to the reveals of new characters that we'll see in the game, to the actual release month of the game, Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 has gotten so many new updates over the past 2 weeks, and in this video I plan on going over all of that, starting with the new Nightmare Critters. We saw the first of these new Nightmare Critters in the teaser trailer and the promotional images around this new chapter. This new character goes by the name of Baba Chops. Speaking of the trailer, in it we see a Dog Day smiling critter crawling through a bunch of mountains of other dead smiling critters, eating another part of a critter's body before getting jumped by Baba Chops and eaten alive as the camera pans out to the rest of whatever area we are inhabiting in this trailer, presumably somewhere we'll see in Chapter 4 when it releases. After this scene fades to black, we get to see the official Chapter 4 logo as well as the release date being January 2025. And with that only being 3 months away, it is safe to assume that we will be getting much more news and new trailers within the next few months surrounding the chapter. Going off of past release orders, we can guess that the final trailer with the actual day of the release date will release in mid to late December or around Christmas time, since the trailers for the past chapters have given release dates of chapters coming out just over or under a month from the trailer's publishing. Over the last week, we got over on the Mob Games' Twitter the description images for basically every Nightmare Critter we will find in the game, in a very similar format to last January's Smiling Critters description pages, which the whole Nightmare Critters thing was met with a bit of controversy from fans, as they didn't like how repetitive using the critters again felt. They were just scared that the whole chapter would feel like just another Chapter 3. But don't worry, as just a few days after the trailer release, we got confirmation from one of the devs over on the Poppy Playtime Discord server that the Nightmare Critters were definitely not the main antagonists for the chapter and were basically just placeholder characters until Mob Games felt like they were ready to reveal to us who the main antagonist would be. Mob Games have done similar things in the past for placeholder characters, like with Chapter 3, and then the full trailer came out for Chapter 3, and we got the release of the Smiling Critters, with this critter being the main character of the chapter for a while, just like with Chapter 4 having Baba Chops front and center currently. Though this was obviously changed to Catnap once he was fully introduced as the main villain, and now we have the game thumbnail that we have today, with Catnap obviously being the front image. Though the villain wasn't the only worry brought out by this teaser trailer's release, as the Steam page was also published on the same day as the trailer. The community didn't have the best reaction to these images, as they looked quite unfinished even compared to Chapter 3 footage. The same dev that washed away our fears of the main antagonist also came back to the rescue to tell us that these screenshots were actually from much earlier development of the chapter, and the images on the Steam page will be updated once the game is more and more polished. We were told to focus on the content of the images more so than the detail and the quality of the images, even if the quality isn't even that horrible. Over the following days after the release of the Steam page and the teaser trailer, we got those Nightmare Critter descriptions for a bunch of new characters that we'll see in this chapter. This list includes Baba Chops, the angsty, antisocial sheep, whose description reads as, "The black sheep of the bunch. Baba prefers to keep her space. She can be distant, quiet, low energy, and it usually requires a lot of coaxing to get her out of the house. She usually perks up after a while, but the next day, we're right back to the same tune." Next, we have the poisonous frog, Icky Licky, whose description is, "Icky's the type of kid to fall behind in a relay race and immediately pin it on a sore knee. He's the very definition of a poor sport. Even though he's naturally talented, he's constantly challenging everyone on absolutely everything, and usually without the outcome he expects." After that, we got Raby Baby, the pink bat, who reads, "Raby Baby couldn't keep a secret if her life depended on it. She has no concept of privacy or boundaries. Don't worry, if she ever runs out of juicy secrets to talk about, she'll just make some up." Fourth is Alistair Gator, the alligator, who reads, "Alistair's an all-around lazy guy. He isn't a fan of the whole put in effort and see that effort rewarded bit. He's much more a believer of the philosophy, good things have to come to me. Eventually. I'll just need to wait around for it." Following the gator is Simon Smoke, the quote-unquote cool dragon, described, "Simon Smoke knows he's cool and popular, and he makes sure nobody ever forgets it. It's always a popularity contest with him. In truth, he's a colossal jerk, but he does have a knack for getting away with being one." Next is Poe, the raven. Poe's description reads as, "Poe hates the sun, and think it's a cruel trick of nature that the world needs it in the first place. They spend their nights hanging around graveyards, listening to music, and feeling vaguely angry at nothing in particular. They insist it isn't a phase." After Poe is the one Tui the rat. I wonder what that could be referencing. Tui is a self-proclaimed trash rodent. When he's not busy eating and collecting garbage, he's a lively conversationalist. He talks a lot, which is made all the more surprising by him having shockingly little to say. If you ever need someone to provide insightful commentary or some random piece of junk, Tui is your guy. And finally is the shark, Maggie Mako, who reads, "Maggie is always thinking about her belly. She's happiest with food in her mouth, and believe us, she's not picky. She loves sweets, but veggies? Yuck. Don't be surprised if she takes your healthy eating habits advice with a dabble of sugar, some chocolate syrup, whipped cream, and a big cherry on top, all while laughing at you profusely." And that is all of the Nightmare Critters. They seem pretty cool to me. other than the wide consensus online that Mob Games seems to be reusing designs for the characters in this new chapter. Though I believe Mob Games has a very good reason for this, and another good thing to discuss would be the importance of the Nightmare Critters from a lore standpoint. Now, just judging off of the descriptions of the Nightmare Critters and the Smiling Critters, not only are the character designs and the names of both of the brands similar, but the descriptions of the characters, at least for most of them, are almost completely polarizing to some of the opposing critters, with characters who are well-liked and those who are egotistical, those who eat healthy and those who eat extremely unhealthily, and many, many more. It seems as if the Nightmare Critters were supposed to be the polar opposites of the Smiling Critters. And a comment that I've seen from a few people online is that these Nightmare Critters are something that a company like Playtime Co. would make to appeal to a teenage audience instead of an obviously younger child audience that the Smiling Critters and all the other Playtime Co. toys would appeal to. It's a very corporate move, and it fits completely from a lore standpoint. And looking at some of the information that we already have on the currently developing ARG, and although we know from previous chapters, the Smiling Critters toy line was a failure of a launch, as catnap seemed to be causing a lot of nightmares for the children who bought the toy, basically forcing Playtime Co. to shut down the toy line and consequentially never getting the chance to launch the Nighttime Critters alternative, presumably sending all of the leftover Smiling Critters and Nightmare Critters to this containment space that we see in the teaser trailer for Chapter 4. Another very interesting detail that I found in the trailer was these walls on what seemed to be the makeshift cages and the pits of dead Smiling Critters. This pattern of red, blue, and yellow is not the first time that it's shown up. If you've been following the Mob Games Twitter page and the developing Chapter 4 ARG, we have now only seen this color pattern in multiple posts. But we can also see the same design pattern on this paper in the ARG. What does this symbol and the colors represent? I'm not sure, but for them to be teasing and hinting to it this much, there definitely is some importance to it, and we will most likely see in future trailers once the ARG is completed, or once the game actually releases this upcoming January. Speaking of, I've mentioned the ARG a good amount of time so far in this video, and I should probably clear up any questions about what this ARG has to do with Chapter 4. So, like with Chapter 3, Mob Games has decided to do another ARG leading up to the next chapter, to hint us at more little story bits that will keep us intrigued for the eventual release of the chapter. For the past few weeks that this ARG has been started, we haven't gotten many updates on it other than the Discord account called Playtime Co. that randomly has been sending messages in Poppy Playtime's Discord server. That was until sometime this past week when Mob Games actually sent physical letters to a select group of creators that make content surrounding Poppy Playtime. When you opened the letter, they were met with a paper from Warren Construction. Now, for basically every Poppy Playtime fan, you do not recognize this name, but we actually have seen this company name all the way back in Chapter 2, when we could find this letter from Warren Construction Company. Now, what the people that have received this letter have noticed is that if you were to shine the UV light onto the letters, a bunch of other letters would be highlighted, showing either one of two words on each of the letters. Some would say the word domain, and others would have central. Now, I and a lot of the other people that have received letters and theorists online think that the word domain is hinting towards a website domain, as Mob Games have used websites for a bunch of different ARGs in their past. And well, it seems that we were correct, as the actual ARG website was just found a few days ago, with a URL of centraldomainaccess.net. Starting out as just a blank computer screen, the computer on the website actually turned on and started flashing a bunch of these images, including this letter from Elliot Ludwig himself, assumedly being an acceptance letter to this new employee of this Young Geniuses program, which I have no idea what it is yet, and I assume that we will hear more about it as this ARG continues to develop over the next coming days. And that is basically everything that we know about Chapter 4 up until this point. Let me know if there's anything else that I missed in the comments and your thoughts on Chapter 4, the Nightmare Critters, in this developing ARG.